I think the most repulsive thing about these gone at a certain age videos are that they've become like a thing on the channel. And despite in what context the artist meets their demise in, it still keeps happening. It's going to be a reoccurring theme. This isn't going to be the last that you hear of an artist going at a young age, but Juice WRLD was, at least to me, marketed as a lovey-dovey substance abuser, and I always had an issue with that. Even though I liked the guy, he seemed like a good kid, he seemed to have a really good head on his shoulders. I always looked at his music, and I even looked at him and I was just like, you have so much potential. You have so much that you can do in this world. You have so much life to live. Your future is extremely bright. You're young. You seem somewhat goal-oriented. I know it's not like my fault. I know it's not his fans' fault. I know it's not everybody else's fault. But when I see things like this, I just look at how long it takes for something to happen and how much time everyone watched. This is, of course, my assumption. We haven't gotten any reports or any details on the hows and the whys, but if those of you who know a little bit about substance abuse, this can be, you know, withdrawal related. So even if he did do something like stop, it can still come back to bite him in the sense that his body may not be used to the change. The same thing happened with rapper Fredo Santana. When he stopped, he developed a seizure disorder after stopping Xanax. And I think that was like 8 months before his death. So for the people that don't believe that, you know, drug use can like become a disease, your body becoming attached to these substances, and you can just all of a sudden quit, it's almost like you become a slave to something that you did to get yourself out of a certain state of mind. And once you finally get yourself away from that state of mind, it draws you back in physically. I don't look at him like he really did anything wrong, to be honest with you. Obviously, he's made some decisions in his life, and clearly going to substances as a way out or a guide to help him solve his emotional grief or his mental traumas was not the way. But why weren't there any other ways, you know? And we can't sit here and act so much better than Juice WRLD. I don't know what state of mind I would have been in had I got rich or famous at 18 or 19 years old off a hit single, blew up, and then had access to everything in the world to help me deal with my issues. Why wouldn't I go right to drugs? This lack of understanding that we have of our emotions, like, really puts everyone in a dangerous position, because we just go to the wrong things for dealing with issues that affect us like every single day. And then those things that we go to end up developing an authority over our lives, convincing people to believe what conditions they can be under to experience happiness. And then you begin to get like fixated on this idea that nobody can tell me better than my own body under what conditions I can be happy under, so you just believe nobody can help you. And we could get into a conversation about why, you know, artists that are so young have access to literally the world. They have no counseling, no guidance. Their label executives want them to make their music, and then they toss them to the side, and they only hit them back up again when they want them to make another project. I hope they don't do with Juice WRLD what they did with XXXTentacion and make a bunch of posthumous, you know, releases and albums filled with just voice memos and, you know, vocal croaks. But there needs to be something said about feeling like you yourself is like an enemy, because it's much more than just telling yourself to think different if there's something going on the inside, like you have a legitimate problem or a legitimate issue that you're trying to address, and then you think that you got a little bit of a hold on it, and then physically you get drawbacks. It's like, how much power do I genuinely have if my body is shutting down when I'm trying to do something good? So I could understand at that point why someone would give in and say, this is clearly a problem that's bigger than my mental power. It's something that physically is taken over. You know, I still believe there's something to be said about this idiosyncratic view that we have towards substance abuse as it pertains to our entertainment. Like, the only way that this generation seems to be able to get through dealing with subjects that are serious is through quick interactions with these things, not through long-winded, deep understandings of them. So I hear many people say they relate to the subject of anxiety or depression, but I don't see many people actually understanding what those things are, despite claiming to relate to them. Why is it that people are so drawn to 3 and 4 minute songs about depression and love and mental stress and anxiety, but aren't drawn towards, you know, think pieces about the subject, and aren't drawn towards deep dives into what these things actually mean and how they can affect you? Why a kid like Juice WRLD was more, I don't know, inclined to check out Future's material as he was dealing with his own mental stress and anxiety at that point, as opposed to look into reading or articles about why he was going through these things in the first place. I've heard many times throughout my life that we deal with harsh and tough issues through something as simple as humor. So the issue never really gets confronted because it's covered with, you know, what we look at through social media, like memes and, you know, quick little internet jokes, just to get people through the day so as not to deal with the realities of those situations as harshly. So over time, it builds up, and you feel like a lot of people experience the same things that you do, but they don't actually understand why it's happening or how to stop it. You go on an app right now, such as Twitter, you'll see tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of memes about something as simple as depression, but you'll never see someone sitting down, going through lengthy paragraphs, articles after articles, think pieces after think pieces, mental reviews on FDA approved drugs to help deal with the problem. You won't see that as often as you'll see the other. And I know this whole rant is based off of me assuming that what caused his seizure was drug use, but I do think that's the likely cause. Barely 21 years old and died of something like that if you're fully healthy. Which is why it makes me so sad when I see things as revolutionary as the internet being used for entertainment as opposed to gaining information to literally 90% of the things in the world. We have access to so much information through our fingertips, and it's never used that way. I think there's something to be said about how this generation knows a little about a lot. I just think we have the wrong form of communication when it comes to subjects that we all know a little about. Like, I'm sure most people know a little bit about something as important as depression, but don't know how to communicate their thoughts with it. And so that ignorance is put in music and marketed as entertainment when it's a serious subject. Instead of rehabilitating somebody with as much potential as Juice WRLD, let's work him. Let's use him. Let's sap him. I'm hearing what this kid is saying in all of his music. Let's not help him, but let's market him. It's like this thirst for intimacy was never actually achieved. And I just feel the topic of something as stressful as mental health is extremely mind-numbing, and it's like a mental gymnastics game just to try your best to see the status of yourself mentally. You take the world and you give them the same access to all the information, but your medium to express yourself socially with that world is places like Twitter, or listening to your favorite artist through Apple Music, or seeing your favorite person on YouTube. There's only so much connection I feel you can get from something like that. So if you are someone like a Juice WRLD and you find yourself in an unhappy position or in a mental rut, or you don't know where to go next, having millions and millions and millions of people acknowledge the same thing that you're going through but having no solution to it, I don't think it's enough, at least for me, to know that other people are going through the same thing that I'm going through if there's no solution to the problem that we're facing. If anything, it would make me feel more isolated, more secluded, and more lonely, having to know that now I got to deal with it, but I'm dealing with it every day by myself. And then you add fame and you add money and you add notoriety on top of that, and you're propelled even higher and further away from society to a point where you're just like on this island by yourself trying to figure out how to fix you. And so you coast through the rest of your life feeling like everything's okay, feeling like you are just subject to it, feeling like you have to deal with it and it's just a part of life, not acknowledging it as too deep of a problem because you know everyone else is already going through it too. So it isolates you from speaking about it even more in public settings. Just probably feeling like, what makes me so special that I have to talk about my stuff openly when everybody else is dealing with the same thing? You start to do things maybe to help the situation. Oh, some people have told me, yo, it's better to get off the drugs. It's better to stop substance abuse. So I'm going to try that. You feel like you're doing it, but your body experiences withdrawals. Or maybe you're still doing it and you just don't want to admit it. Why is it that so many people go through the exact same thing, and then the very thing that like connects so many people being the same thing that disassociates us from one another? Because feeling like so many people go through it, I shouldn't make a bigger deal out of me going through it because everybody else is going through it too. So let me just shut up and deal with it. The medium that I use to express myself through something like music being taken and used as entertainment when it's really how I feel. If how I feel and what I'm doing are 100% honest and wholeheartedly being put into my music, and that type of stuff is making people scream at crowds and making people or inspiring people to try it too, I'm not getting any closer to my solution. My problem is being used for my money. I don't know how to deal with people talking about, oh, now people are going to become fans of Juice WRLD because he's gone now. Incoming Juice WRLD fans, 3, 2, 1. If you weren't a fan of Juice WRLD, don't let those things get to you, because just showing remorse for another human being that lost their life at such a young age when they were clearly so talented and had so much promise and could have gone well off into the future, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not a clout chaser for expressing you know, your sadness over a situation like that, even if you weren't a fan. I just know he was far too talented and had too much potential to go the way he went, and at such a tragic young age. Y'all are free to express how you feel about it in the comment section, and yeah, have a good day. Don't think too harshly about it. I really don't know what to tell you, to be honest. Deal with it how you may.